23 of Stargirl. This is a great chapter. This chapter is going to be about a type of conflict, one particular. There's lots of conflicts in great storytelling in books by Jerry Spinelli, but one in particular really stands out to me. So, as you listen to me read this chapter 23 of Stargirl, stop and jot for figurative language. There's one really great one that's going to point to a theme. And stop and jot about the types of conflicts you noticed. And at the end, you can kind of add them up and see which one is most prevalent or pervasive throughout this chapter. That just means ongoing and lots of examples of evidence. Okay? I'm going to begin to read aloud now. Chapter 23, Stargirl. Those were the best times when we were alone together, out of school. We took long walks around town into the desert to her enchanted place. We sat on park benches and people watched. I introduced her to a strawberry banana smoothie. I borrowed the pickup and drove to Red Rock and Glendale. On weekends, we went to Archie's. On his back porch, we talked of 1,000 things and laughed and swooned and piped smoke and ate pizza. She presented her oratorical contest speech to Senor Saguaro, and we never spoke of the shunning. I loved weekends. But Mondays always followed Sundays, and the shunning, it was clear now, had come to me. It was less absolute for me than for her, but it was there. I saw it in the eyes that shifted away from mine, the shoulders that turned, the chatter that seemed less around me now than before. I fought it. I tested its limits in the courtyard between classes in the lunchroom. I called out to others just to see if they would respond. When someone turned and nodded, I felt grateful. If someone spoke to me, especially if I had not spoken first, I wanted to cry. I had never realized how much I needed the attention of others to confirm my own presence. Now is a good time to pause the read aloud and stop and jot. What type of conflict is the main character, Leo, feeling, and why? I told myself that the shunning was more painful for me than Stargirl. I told myself that she was too busy being herself to notice that she was being ignored. In fact, she continued to give birthday people a ukulele serenade and to decorate her desk and to distribute assorted kindness. I told myself that even if she did notice, she wouldn't care. I understood why this was happening to me. In the eyes of the student body, she was part of my identity. I was her, quote, boyfriend, unquote. I was Mr. Stargirl. Students said things, not to me, not directly, but tuned for me to overhear, even as they pretended I was nowhere near. They said she was a self centered spotlight hogger. They said she thought she was some kind of a saint. I cringed at that. And that she was even better than the rest of us. They said she wanted everyone else to feel guilty for not being as nice and wonderful as she was. They said she was a phony. Most of all, they said she was the reason why Micah electrons were not soon to become the Arizona State basketball champions. Kevin had been right. When she started cheering for the other teams, she did something bad to her own team. To see one of the own priming and opposition did something to the team's morale that hours of practice could not overcome. And the last straw, everyone seemed to agree, was the Sun Valley game when Stargirl rushed across the court to aid Kovac, the Sun Valley star player. All of this was affirmed by our own star, Ardsley himself, who said that when he saw a Micah cheerleader giving comfort to the enemy, the heart went out of him. She was why they lost the next game so miserably to Red Rock. They hated her for it, and they would never forgive. Now is another good time to stop and jot about conflict. What type of conflict are you feeling? Are you sensing as a reader right now? Character versus self, character versus society, character versus character, or character versus nature? Take a minute to write. Pause the read aloud. When you're ready to resume, click play. Unlike Stargirl, I was aware of the constant anger of our schoolmates, seething like snakes under a porch. Wow. I'm going to take a break and reread that sentence, and you tell me what type of figurative language that is. Unlike Stargirl, I was aware of the constant anger of our schoolmates, seething like snakes under a porch. Think aloud. So, authors like Jerry Spinelli often strategically place figurative language into their books so the reader will stop and visualize and think about the theme or the message. So let's analyze this figurative device, and in your challenge from me, in your reflection, you can name the figurative language, what type it is. We've been studying it since September. But more importantly, authors use figurative language sometimes to make the reader stop and think about what is the message of the story, what is the moral, what is the theme. So, unlike Stargirl, I was aware of the constant anger of our schoolmates seething like snakes under a porch. Jerry wants us to think about how people can be so mean for some strange reasons. These classmates are shunning Stargirl and Leo because they have this great relationship and they think she's a phony or a fake or a wannabe saint when all she is a genuine person that acts with kindness and cares about others. I think Jerry wants us to think about how in this world we need more people that are willing to run across lines to help someone, albeit a basketball game or a kid on the other side of the classroom who maybe needs a little bit of help, and not worry about what people think or how they'll judge us because we help someone, even if they're not our friend. How powerful is that random act of kindness, that true human spirit who genuinely cares about others? I can't help but think of so many people who have dropped off masks for my wife or for my son whose immune system is compromised right now. And people have given us meals because of their compassion. They know that my wife is a nurse on the front lines and trying to keep people safe and get people well and recover from this pandemic. I have seen on the news, for as scary as this is, so many random acts of kindness. People buying gift cards to restaurants just to keep them in business. People changing their business models to make masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Stargirls are everywhere right now. Back to the book. That was my little think aloud. That's what that part meant to me. Unlike Stargirl, I was aware of the constant anger of our schoolmates seething like snakes under a porch. In fact, not only was I aware of it, but at times I also understood their point of view. There were even moments when something as small and huddled within me agreed with it. But then I would see her smile and take a swan dive into her eyes, and the bad moment would be gone. I saw, I heard, I understood, I suffered. But whose sake was I suffering for? I kept thinking of Senor Saguaro's question: whose affection do you value more, hers or others? What a great signpost there. There's two rolled into one. In your reflection, try to identify this signpost as well. I saw, I heard, I understood, I suffered. But whose sake was I suffering for? I kept thinking of Senor Saguaro's question: whose affection do you value more, hers or others? Think aloud. Think in your own life: whose affection do you value and whose judgment do you worry about? Jerry Spinelli is challenging us to think about our relationships and seek affection from those who matter most, and to try to forget or let go of the judgments of the people in your life who are bringing you down, or the negative influence. Try not to get bogged down as you move into middle school with the people that are around you who might judge you for your relationship or for your passions. Just be yourself and try not to worry about what those negative influencers are, and think about who are the relationships in your life that are positive ones and that matter to you most. So let me wrap up this chapter here. There's one more paragraph. I became angry. I resented having to choose. I refused to choose. I imagined life without her and without them, and I didn't like it either way. I pretended it would not always be like this. In the magical moonlight of my bed at night, I pretended she would become more like them and they would become more like her. And that in the end, I would have it all. And then she did something that made pretending impossible. Jerry Spinelli ends chapter 23 on a cliffhanger. Can't wait to talk to you guys about this great chapter. Stay safe.